tonight on this horrible November evening. Great to see so many of you, and thanks for coming. We have 010 here. She is a lady, or a being, I should say, who has exemplified a lot of things pertaining to what is lawful and what is legal. I first came across the ULCT during lockdown, and at that point we were having meetings locally as people were all over the country getting together and talking about, how to not wear a face mask in a supermarket, how to face down the policeman or the security guard, and these sort of little things that were going on in all of our groups. And then one day it came to our attention, the Universal Law Community Trust, and that there was a restoration of rights part of it, where we could take back property that is in the domain of the government legislation, and do a restoration of rights on it. So we had a UCC1 filing, a Universal Commercial Code filing, stating that we were the secured party creditors to Her Majesty's government. I'm sure O&O would like to elaborate more on that. But with this documentation, which is all legit, we went into a 42-bedroomed house in Monmouthshire that was being sold from the council back into the private through an auction. They were told to cease and desist. They didn't. They carried on with the sale. We moved in. We stayed there for 28 days, and it was a hell of an experience. I think everyone involved would say it was, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of emotions, a lot of chats. The talk of the electric universe, Tartarian theories, round flat Earth, and all of this stuff was coming up, and it was great. But it was also, it was a massive learning curve for all of us, and a huge experience. So what we came out of with that, O&O, I think will explain it better. But what I came out of that experience with was a sense that there's a lot of healing that needs to be done in the local communities. There's a lot of, we were just sort of thrown together in a house, and it was kind of like an explosion.
How many people?
Excuse me?
How many people?
It fluctuated, but there were basically about 6 or 7 of us that were there most of the time. So that was the experience, and then the fallout of that was quite dramatic as well. There was a lot of injured people, but it happened, and we came through the other side, and we did go to court. The judge abandoned ship 3 times, reconvened in another court. We got to see the system, how it works, how they move the goalposts in their favour, but also, exemplified a lot of other things as well. So we had our expert on the phone in Greece, giving us advice as to how to handle this situation, how to go about it. It was, it was difficult. There was no phone reception at the house. There was all these other things going on, and at the end of the day, we got kicked out. The bailiffs came. But the experience was immense. And here tonight, there are people who are using the universal law to discharge all their utility bills, their mortgages, all these sorts of things. I think at this stage of the game, we're all sort of wondering what's going to happen next. No one knows what's going to happen next. A lot of speculation, as there was 2 or 3 years ago. We're all speculating about what's going to happen next. We don't know what's going to happen next. But to get sort of in tune with their legislation, the law, how the law works is quite an important thing, I do believe, especially in these sort of local communities. Speaking of which, that it would be nice with these talks to be able to do further talks regarding, how to structure a local community. So, we've all got limited resources, limited time, etc. and the coming together of people to do certain skills or learn certain skills, build things, make oils, make tinctures in groups locally, so that you don't have a sort of central organisation, as it were. You have your little groups exchanging with each other energetically, as opposed to with money and slave tokens. That way you're purifying the energy of the exchange. You're being able to exchange with people on a different sort of level. It becomes just takes the whole thing, makes the whole thing a lot purer. And it's actually quite easy to do. All you need to do is, like tomorrow, you can start a group with half a dozen people making oil, whatever kind of oil that might be, CBD oil or olive oil extract. I don't know, there's lots of different ways, and you could have a carpentry group. There could be all sorts of groups springing up.
Growing food, that would be the main one.
Growing food, foraging, making oils from the foraging, from the herbs that you pick up foraging, all sorts of things like that. Yeah, totally possible. But I go to 0109.
Thank you for that. It's a kind introduction. I've been doing this for quite some time now in various forms. My background was that I used to sell you all on the stock exchange. And when I realised that that's what was happening, by putting my own legal entity identification number, also known as a national insurance account number, into the system that I was using for my job, I found 77,000 companies trading on my life, really, and that's what's happening to every single one of us. Now, most people are unaware of that commercial system that's in operation, and how it became manifest is through us assigning our equitable rights that we don't even know that we've got to this legal fiction system. So most people are bamboozled between the legal jargon that we're all half given definitions for through various means, through different dictionaries, through other people's perceptions. And it all boils down to the same thing fundamentally, that it's a man-made definition that we're all subject to and that we all consent to unknowingly. Now, if we don't know that something's happening and we consent to it unknowingly, then that's a very different thing, obviously, to when you become aware and conscious of the fact that there is this system in the background that we have been unaware of, the unknown that you talked about. And then you can choose then, really have a different definition of choice, instead of here's the choices that you've got to already choose from and call it free choice, as to whether that's your which political party do you want, or which toxic GMO food you want to buy in our store. It all comes under this same jurisdiction, this man-made definition of what we all call reality. So the universe has been busy kind of training me to put all of these pieces of my history to play, so that I could then turn around at the point of realization using gamma. I don't know if anybody knows about moving your brainwaves into gamma healing technique, where you connect your heart to your frontal lobe, and if you put an EEG reader on your head, it actually takes your brainwaves into gamma frequency. And I poo-pooed this. I was completely mainstream corporate slut, if you can imagine that, and completely oblivious, didn't really care, the same as any other corporate slut, of how it was that I made all this money and how big my house was, how I got this huge house and great lifestyle and all of this in South Africa. And you don't ask the questions, because the money's so great that's the distraction. And so I was completely this all hocus pocus kind of stuff, you know, although I've got a degree in molecular science, differentiating with these labels of already this preconditioned idea of, you know, Reiki is any different to molecular science, for example. And once I did this gamma, it kind of put all of these different definitions that we've been given and that we've been programmed with and accept as our own, and then go and create our reality with these set of definitions. You realise then how confined we actually are in this hypothetical hypothesis of a psychosis that we seem to all be suffering from, to grant and assign our consent to be what is fundamentally Vatican debt slave. So by coming out of that, and it was a great big wake-up call to realise that, you know, we are all, how can a number choose was the question that entered my head when I put this number in. A number can't choose. A number, you know, a number's just a number, and it was only at that point that I realised that it's the actual living, breathing, potential creation of each and every single one of us that's being already presumed to fit into this paradigm of, are you going to be vaccinated after you've been born, or are you going to be breastfed, bottle-fed, all of this information. It goes right back to even before you've actually even taken your first breath. So this obviously is huge when we're talking about universal law, because it affects us universally in every single way, that we don't realise that we're actually creating this contract with that is against our souls, it turns out, against that thing that we call the soul. Even these definitions that we've been calling happiness or love or kindness or freedom, or they've all got this feeling behind them, but that we want to express, but we've been given this terrible bastardization of a language called the English language, which is actually the language of commerce. So it's got all of these other definitions. So when you're using these words vibrationally, you're not actually creating in the what it is that you think that you're trying to express, the feelings of, because the words and their meanings are completely corrupted. So you're actually speaking into the vibrational field of creation, which is all there in this indoctrination station system, in a tiny little pixel of information that we're given at these places. And you know, you've got a degree in bullshit, it turns out, let's, you know, and we all use that as a definition. Who are you? Oh, hello, I'm this legal Vatican debt slave fiction system, product of this system, and I really haven't got a clue who I am, where I'm from, what I'm doing here, how did I get here, who made me, where it is that in this universe, this you know, thing that we call reality, and where am I in relation to another apparition of self that I call you, and you call you, the thing that I call you call me. When you look in the mirror, you're actually looking at yourself and saying, oh, it's me. And so by going through all of this rebooting my hard drive, really is the only way that I can describe it, all of these things pointed into a completely different picture than one that we've been painting for ourselves. And it does turn out that we're actually, it's us that we're kidding ourselves, you know, we're hidden behind this, and whatever it might be, this facade, this legal fiction, this ideology, or this definition of ourselves, and where does it come from, and all of that. And so I do these Zooms with people, and before, a long time before COVID came about 10 years ago, this all started off on a tripod of change, which is the free energy, obviously, instead of petrochemical driven energy, natural remedies instead of pharmaceuticals, and organic food, obviously, instead of GMO, and built on an Ubuntu process structure, which some of you may be familiar with, which is 5 hours a week of your energy put into your community. And all of these little parts of how we've been split up and how do we end up in this mess, really. You're filling your car up with fuel and you're thinking, you know, nobody ever asked me this. Nobody ever asked me, are you all right with this? Nobody ever came to you. And so you start to think about, you know, actually what is consent. So I've done some home schooling things. So I don't want to, obviously you guys are a little bit more aware than people that generally we get to speak to on the phone, or they've just gone on the website and things. So I don't want to bore you with things that you already know about. But obviously it all starts and finishes with the birth certificate. So if we don't contract with that legal fiction, what happens? What is it that happens if we don't do that thing? Because that's the way it is and that's the way it's always been. That's, you know, when you talk about filling your car up with fuel and everybody's saying the same thing, how did it get to this, you know? Well, because that's the way it is, that's the way it's always been. What if we just suddenly said, okay, well, that's not a good enough excuse for this or reason for this anymore, that's the way it's always been? Because the book starts and stops, obviously, with us. So how did it get to be like this is much more important than, you know, we all know what it is that we'd like to change about the things that we see in our immediate community. And the most important thing, obviously, is your energy. Where is your energy going? Where do you invest your energy? How did this corporate capitalisation parasitical system, which exists, and it's us who is we're breathing life into this dead commercial entity system. And without us, it doesn't exist. And so I've just finished this stage of exemplifying what happens if you don't contract with that legal fiction. And so we've opened outlets, we've done stopped banks stealing people's houses, we've stopped electricity companies disconnecting people's supplies. Really, to sum it all up, what is it that Universal Law Community Trust structure does? It gives people all of their bits back. It rebuts the presumption that you are assigning your consent to be the unlimited liability holder in due course to corporate capitalism of your rights. And so really when we talked about the restoration of rights, it's us restoring our own rights back to ourselves. And if you don't even know that you had any, most people, you know, oh, we've got a right to shelter, we've got all of these rights that you can go and read that somebody wrote down. But who, you know, is it that can come to you and say to you, here's your rights, I wrote them down for you, and I've defined what they are, and if you don't do what it is that I tell you, then I can take them back off you, but not even that actually, not take them back off you, but you have to buy your rights back off me as a privilege. Well, hang on a minute, how did I end up with your rights in the first place? Well, you gave them to me. Well, I can't tell you that. It's under non-disclosure. So all of this system of hypotheses and commercial capitalism on your rights has been done under non-disclosure. Can't talk about it, keep it on the QT. Now all of these are massive giveaways to, once you start to get a picture of a different definition, there's different meanings to these words that are being used that we've all been using, such as understand, as you all know. If I say to you, do you understand me?
Sometimes.
Okay. And that would be actual contract. You would be entering into an agreement, a verbal, tactical agreement in this adding to the administration of the law system. So administrative system, adding to the administration of the law, makes it unlawful. But if I can come to your house, knock on your door and say, hello, Mr. Whatever, debt slave whatever, I've got a piece of paper here and it says that you've been very naughty and you haven't been a good debt slave and you haven't paid my corporation all of this money that we've demanded that you need to pay us to exercise your right to shelter using commerce in your community, and you need to get out of your house.
Me?
Yeah.
You're joking?
I'm not out. I've got my buddies are here, we're booting you out. I get your stuff, you've been given 28 days in my kangaroo court.
Can't I do anything about it?
Oh, well, what would you do? This is legal, isn't it? It's legal for me to come to your house. You've been to the court, you've said, no, please, I haven't got any money and I can't pay and I haven't got a job and COVID and all this lot. And we've just rubber stamped it because we can, because you're not really there.
So you're just going to kick me out the streets?
Because nothing really happened here. This is administration, this is legal fiction, la la la.
And what happens if I call the police?
Well, if you call the police, they actually uphold our acts and statutes, and they're on our payroll. This is, you know, we're not the mafia for nothing, you know.
So I'm buggered. Unless...
You're buggered. Why are you buggered?
Well, because I'm using my legal fiction, I guess.
Absolutely right. So, what
can I
happens
do?
if you don't use the legal fiction and I come to your, so I come to the door now with the piece of paper? What have I got on the piece of paper?
A legal fiction.
If you haven't used the legal fiction.
No name. No official...
I can't actually come, can I? How can I come if I haven't got a name? If I haven't got a name that I have got the jurisdiction of, that is a copyrighted logo that belongs to my corporation, and I can't begin my little game of commerce because nobody's played my game. Nobody's picked up that thing that belongs to me and used it. And that is, in a nutshell, that is what we are all doing. We are picking something up that does not belong to us and using it and saying, that's mine. So if I say to you, or anybody in the room, who are you? What would you tell me that you define yourself as, in my knowledge of what it is that's going on, as a Vatican debt slave is what you would define yourself as. Now, if you've got the whole universe to choose from, as to define yourself, what are you? What would you say you are? If I say, who are you? Without thinking about it.
I'm having an experience here.
Is that what you would normally say when you come out of your mouth? Right. So you're not speaking to 0 and 0, and I'm not trying to set you up. Just normally, what would you say?
Dom.
Dom. Okay. And hi, Dom. And how do you know you're Dom?
That's what my parents called me.
Okay, can you prove that you're Dom?
I've got documentation.
Okay, prove to me you're Dom.
Well, there you go. There's a bit of paper with my name on it.
Okay, and so where did you get that piece of paper from?
It came from the passport office.
So it's a passport, and it's got your photograph on it, and it's got a name on it. And so that name, is that your name?
It is my name. Yeah.
And how do you know that's your name?
Because that's what my parents gave to me.
That's what your parents gave to you. Now, keep that in your head because that is really important. The given name. Given to me by who? For what purpose? Do you mean the name that was given to me to imply that my soul had been given to the Vatican? Do you mean that as a given name? Do you mean the name that they used to call you when you smashed your bike into the car or kicked your football through the window? Because I bet it wasn't Don then that they gave you the name of.
No,
is it?
True.
No, so, well, what point do we start to say, okay, given to me by who? So it's third-party hearsay. Somebody came along and they said, this is my son and his name is Don. Don, I saw that. So, but when she picked the baby up, Don's mum didn't look at her baby and say, "It's a lovely little baby boy I've got. I'll call him last name first name last, capitalised version of the given name in big letters." Did she?
She didn't.
And she definitely didn't go along to the registrar's office and say, "I've had a lovely baby, and I want to call him, last name first name last, Dom, big letters, hyphen, mother's maiden name. And make the father a bastard. Did she?
She didn't.
She didn't. And at the same time, the registrar didn't turn around to Dom's mum and say, look, did you know that by coming in here and telling me that you had a baby and registering your baby with me, that you will be obliged to bring your lovely baby to one of these places every year for the first 7 years of its life to evidence that it isn't dead yet? The registrar didn't say that to Dom's mum either, did she? Or she?
As far as I know.
No. Because if she had, she'd have smacked him across the face and called the police and said there's somebody psychotic here doing something that doesn't feel right. If I said that to your mum, that if you register your child with me, you'll be giving me all of this child's rights, and that child will be then having to buy its rights back as a Vatican debt slave for the rest of its life after the age of 7, because the use of that legal fiction title will imply that the child hasn't got a trust and it's a bastard, and that it is consenting to have all of its rights, what's left of them at this point, capitalised on by my corporation, and I'm called Crown Corporation. If I didn't tell your mum that as the registrar, and I allowed her to enter into an undisclosed contract with me, based on those conditions that I didn't disclose, because there are 5 things that are needed in a contract to be valid, full disclosure obviously is the first most important one, because without it, you can't consider what then you're supposed to either accept or negotiate. If you can't accept because of non-disclosure, then obviously there's no meeting of the minds. And if there's no meeting of the mind, there can be no mutual benefit. So just those 5 things, the only 5 things that you need to consider when you're having any intercoursing, call it what it is, with this commercial system. Because that contract now hasn't got those 5 elements to make it valid, any obligation of performance that is implied from that implied contract is null and void. Is everybody following that, kind of, yeah?
What were 5?
Yes. Okay, 5, so it's full disclosure. I have to tell you what it is, haven't I? And so because the registrar failed to disclose the terms and conditions of the Strawman Act of 1666, and that the child needed to be brought in evidence as being alive, or at the anniversary of the 7th year, the master or mistress of their own estate would be presumed to be dead lost at sea. Does everybody know about the Strawman Act of 1666? Okay. Google it, go and read it. If somebody goes missing today, this is their legislation. I don't get bogged down with this. You read it once, you relate it, assimilate, recognise, relate, assimilate and action all of this information. Go and find it out for yourself. Don't take anybody else's word for it, and start to put this into practice yourselves. And that illusion just doesn't exist. It really is. You pull the veil away from your own mind. And the second one is consideration. Consideration. Acceptance. Because at that point, if I'd said that to your mother and she's considered that and thought, well, it's not something I'm going to accept, then obviously she would have pulled out at that point. So I've considered it. I'm happy to accept those terms and conditions that have been disclosed to me. And so now I've met somebody at the mind. I haven't said this is I never said pink light shade, but it is. I haven't said that this is a pink elephant. And, you know, it's a valid contract. It is what it is. What it has been described in the contract. And then you've got mutual benefit. So there has to be something beneficial out of it. Now, how many people have used the word benefits, claimed benefits, people on benefits? In order for you or anybody to have benefits, there has to be you have to be a beneficiary, don't you? Simple. If you had benefits, there has to be a beneficiary, then there has to be a trust. Okay? Now, the reason why we accepted the government to be set up initially was so that we didn't have to worry about our commerce being committed on our rights, but also about where did our water come from? Was it clean? Where did the electricity come from? Don't bother your pretty little heads. You incapacitated legal miners, you don't know what you're doing with your own shares of this rock. You need the Pope to look after it for you. So, if I said to you, I had an imaginary friend and his name is God, and God says to me that you all don't know what you're doing, and so I need to hold all of this planet, this rock and its assets and resources in trust, because you lot don't know what you're doing with it, and you need to convert to my religion. You need to believe what I say you need to believe. You have one of my given names that I give to you to choose from, and you can buy your rights back from me as a privilege, and I'm going to toxify them and put the fluoride in and the GMO in and the pharmaceuticals in, and I'm going to call it ministering your trust back to you. Would you say I was psychotic? That's what Pope Boniface said in 1302 and created something called the Papal Bull Trust with that. That was so they could then go and enforce this Christianity definition of reality on everybody, and while they quietly stole the resources of the rock, while everybody's down on their knees and asking for forgiveness to this new imaginary friend definition. Not that there's anything wrong with imaginary friend, but I just don't, I don't go around saying that my imaginary friend is better than your imaginary friend, or, let's have a fight about imaginary friends, because really that is the crux of all of it. This definition and getting somebody stoked about the same thing. We're talking about the same thing all the time, but we've got these different definitions for it, and so then we end up having a big fight because it stirs the shit pot, and before you know it, you're kicking a healer out of your house because you're calling it hocus pocus for what you would call molecular science. So, because of that fraud in that system that doesn't disclose all of that information, there isn't a valid contract on this rock that it has got any lawful or legal standing. Now, when you're born into this, from an indefinable state into an indefinable state until before your foot even hits the floor, you've got your footprint stored away inside the Vatican. That implies your rights. It implies that you have been birthed now instead of born into this Admiralty ecclesiastical definition system. And we compound it by indoctrinating our children with this is your name, this is who you are, this is your mom, this is your dad, this is your religion, this is what you get to eat, this is your job that you're going to do, and your whole life is already predetermined for you within a certain degree, let's say, of choice. We're going to then pretend to ourselves is free will. So what happens if you don't do that? What happens if you don't register something and you exercise your rights unalienably? So a lien is something as a charge. And you've heard all of this. We've been living all of this commercial system all of our lives. We know that if I don't pay my debts, somebody can come to my house, knock on my door, say, Mr. Debt Slave, you haven't paid your debt, there's a repossession order, out you go. But because we've had legal misdefined as lawful, and so up came then universal law to this point to say, right, okay, what supersedes everything? What comes before common law? I was going around shouting about being the Sheriff of Dorset under the common law court. That's another story, we'll talk about that after. If it worked, I'd be sitting here talking to you about common law. We can just take it at that. You standing in your indefinable state, so when they're screaming at me in the court, who are you, what's your name, where are you from the universe? Who are you? I'm indefinable. Oh, what was your given name? Well, given to me for what? By who? So this has all come about because of the empowerment, that just looking for that, what is valid, what is the definition of valid? You're saying that I've got an obligation of performance to you, show me the contracts. Now, everybody says, well, okay, well, you know, I did sign the mortgage and I did sign the car lease or the loan or the bank loan or whatever, the credit card. Yeah, you did sign, but you didn't know that what you were doing when you signed it, because even in their system, you're an incapacitated legal minor and you don't know what you're doing. That's why you've got to trust that they've initiated on your behalf, because you never became capacitated enough to show due diligence enough to really set up your own trust, to rebut the presumption. You didn't even know you needed one. But this is what creates, you know, the bricks and mortar in the end of you know, of how people, a workforce, even come and put a building together. They're actually paying themselves to go to work. So there is this massive indoctrination that we have to get through ourselves, and everybody's unique in that what level it is that we've got this ingrained into ourselves with. But so we've just started showing people, ask these questions. Ring the Home Office up and say, have I got the right of use of that legal fiction that's on that birth certificate? And they'll tell you no. I've been sat in a detention centre in Greece because I refused to contract. Dangling the carrot, look, you can be released, you can be given a licence, you can go around, pay us €2,500 and you can go around, yeah, go around upstairs, come downstairs here. Now I'm in contract, I've assigned you all of the equitable rights to be rearrested again for something else that you can just magic up. Because it's fiction, and that's why if I come to your house, first of all I have to go through a process, and I have to say, you know, whose house am I coming to? If you've got a debt with me, I can't go to his house and say, right, you mate, out your house, because he owes me money. You'd be like, well, so we know this commercial code, that if I've got a debt, somebody can exchange the debt for the asset. Now, what if these corporations then suddenly ended up with the debt? What if enough people became aware that actually, what if I was retired from crediting that legal fiction system? What if I assigned my implied share of this rock and all of its resources that they're saying that I've got, and I put it somewhere? And wherever it is that I put it, have said to me, don't give it to them, because look what they're doing with everybody else's share. Why would I? Why would I give, if I'm implied to have this share, but I haven't even got, nobody's come to you, have they, and said, here's your share of the oil and the gold and this bit over here is your water. No. So it's all hypothesis. So until somebody actually does that, then what is, if we can hypothesize to this degree that we can create things like this, like towns, like cities, like communities that are giving their energy to such an enslaved system and a mindset, what about if we just completely converted and exchanged that mindset for one that was the opposite? What about that? If we can do all of this in this frequency and compound this negative energy into creating this community that represents and exemplifies that, where the people that are supposed to then represent us look like Boris Johnson or whoever. I mean, Boris Johnson, you know, I like Boris Johnson for the reason that there was no getting away from the fact that, you know, we're all a bunch of clowns, and this is what's representing our chief executive of clowns. Because look at everything that we just sucked up at the pantomime the Muppet Show tonight. You know, so what we were able to do by just sharing this information with people is, I mean, I had two conversations, I'm not going to point any fingers, I had two conversations with two amazing people, and it wasn't me or anything that it was themselves that they put the trust back into, and said, right, okay, well, I get that bit, and I get that bit, and I know this bit, and I know about commercial code, and I've checked that out, and Uniform Commercial Code is what Her Majesty's government is filed under because it's inside the Security Exchange Commission. Uniform Commercial Code has got this number 96 and 9610 that says that if the asset is peacefully surrendered, then the right by the debtor. Who are the debtors? Who are the debtors? We've been the debtors. We're the debtors and the creditors. We are the executors, we are the leasees, leaseors, the grantee, grantor. We're both of these things. And that the difference is between the public and the private, and where you stand in that situation. So if you discharged all of your liabilities, for example, if you turn around and say, right, okay, I accept that I have been a creditor of the debtor system, and I'm retiring from crediting that system, and then I'm going under non-disclosure. I'm not going to do any more hypothesizing, because if I have been party to creating all of this as an unsecured creditor of a administrative system without my consent, and I didn't know I was doing it, the minute that I'm aware of that, I can secure my mind in stopping from doing that and retire whatever it was. I don't even need to know what it was that I'm being hypothesized about on the stock exchange, because it's hypothesis. I need to take away all of that hypothesis and that draining of my energy, and is it this or is it this or is it this, and just go and grow some food. I need to divert and invest my energy into what I want to see, instead of banging on about, look what you're doing to me, government, the police, the court, council, and say, it's me doing it to myself.
So the exchange of energy you've put into sort of kindness credits. I mean, that's something I think we can all relate to, is having a fairer system, a fairer way of giving and taking energy.
It's all about energy, isn't it? It's all energy. So if I want, if you've got food and you're a farmer, I don't want to eat, I've got to convert my energy into your food. But in the middle of that, we've got these slave tokens, we've got this mechanism, this fiat currency mechanism. And so I believe, like everybody else believes, unfortunately, that I need to convert my energy into these pieces of paper to then give these pieces of paper to you, so that you take these pieces of paper, give me the food, because I can't really eat the paper, and none of us can, and so that you can pay these pieces of paper to exercise your right to shelter, or your right to heat, or house, or sustain yourself. Because we all share that belief. What if we all as a community discharge that belief that actually the heating of our shelters, which we've got a right to exercise shelter within, has come from nowhere else other than of your own sweat equity. So who lent who what is the question that you need to ask yourself first. Okay, so I've told myself I signed this mortgage agreement, and now I'm saying who lent who what. You actually lent yourself it all. You actually charge yourself the fee, the administration fee, for breaking or making a contract with the administrative legal fiction system or not. And when you don't, even when the corporations are facing you down and threatening you with 2 life sentences, if you get a lawyer. If you get a lawyer, you're looking at 2 life sentences, because really we want you to contract to deport.
You were threatened with 2 life sentences, is that right?
Yeah, so to serve at least between 6 and 9 years in prison because of, but they already tried to execute a sentence of another 5.5 years. This is two years ago, but they couldn't, and I knew that they couldn't, because they didn't have any equity to pay their private prisons with, or to go and pay their private government agencies with. So because I wouldn't give that I haven't claimed I've got a share of this rock and planet Earth. They did. They said that you've got a share, you've got a share, you've got a share, you've got a share, and it's all represented by the birth certificate, and you walk along, when you say, who are you, you're claiming a share of this rock. But you're also, at the same time, claiming a share of the rock. You can't prove that. It's an unsubstantiated claim. So immediately, you've stepped into crediting that which you cannot prove. So, what he did at Hillston, and the outpouring from all of the things with COVID, it all comes under the one pyramid, whatever shape you like, draw it how you want, is unsubstantiated claim, and we have been making it all our lives. Who, like we said, who are you? Where are you from? What are you doing here? And no, well, the honest answer is we don't know. So if we can accept, as a community, that because the fear only comes from, I don't know who you are, I don't know who you are, I don't know who I am, oh my God, I don't know, I need some insurance, let me buy loads of insurance for all of the things that might happen to me, or, you know, whatever it is that we do. And so even having this national insurance account number, or a government, or it's only so we can blame somebody else for when it goes so. That's the honest answer, you know. But if we all turn around now and said, okay, what does your 5 hours a week represent? You're doing more than 5 hours a week. You're doing 55, 60, 70 hours most of your life, putting in your sweat equity into the system to come to a place like your shop to buy your veg back off you. And you're going to take that money, my sweat equity, and pay your bills. And so what if I came to you and I said, hey, what about, you know where that electricity comes from, your share of the rock? Why don't you just take your share of the rock back from the electricity company that has been granted the right of use of it by the government through you using legal fiction? Why don't you just take it back and send them a bill? Why don't we? So we did. So not only did we send them a bill as a collective, we got everybody to let us know when these private corporations were trying to force you into this fraud. So if I say, I can't take your name, fix a contract with it, and without your consent, can I?
No.
What is it? If I do that?
Fraud.
Fraud. But if a corporation takes all of our names and fixes contract with it, then that's a fucking big fraud, isn't it? Which is what I said in a court in Greece, and the court shut down and nobody had their houses stolen. So the massive amount of debt that has not been created for this corporate system, and the amount of debt that's been discharged because people have just said, hang a minute, show me the contract, who lent who what, and even if we get to that point and you can still hypothesize, because I've still used the legal fiction, I'm really sorry, but I sold my debt to Minister Emoven, and Minister Emoven is coming to ask you, face to face, as a bishop, because you need a bishop now that you're a minister, where is your assignment of consent? Because this guy here went on this website here, and he assigned all of his rights that you implied had been assigned by him to your legal fiction, to another legal fiction that he has got the right of use of. Who's that? Me. Who's me? Minister Emoven. So what does Minister Emoven stand for? Something that I can reserve my rights behind. If you want me to go into other definitions, but it's energy and matter in movement, and you're ministering that anyway, you all are. You're all ministering your own energy and matter, and what we're doing is we're going and putting it into house, into chaos. And then it's, oh my God, let me lie down, or take some tablets, or take some pharmaceuticals, or, you know, go and consume myself on behalf of one of the beneficiaries of this system. So when you don't do that, the system cannot initiate. We've had people who have reached the worst nightmare that most people have got, which is bankruptcy, because they're going to make me bankrupt. Let's peel back the layers on that for the record. If I'm bankrupt and I've just been appointed a bunch of trustees as my official receivers to discharge all of these charges that are held behind this legal title that I've been using, and the trust's job is to discharge all of the charges, which is why it was a trust in the first place, why am I being asked to stand surety to the liabilities? If there's a trust, the very fact that you're asking to consider or imply that you've got some right to take my asset, even as a legal fiction, for a hypothetical debt that should have hypothetically been discharged by the hypothetical trustees that have been hypothetically created to do that job, why are you asking me to Why are you using my asset? Well, the answer, the honest answer is because nothing happened here. And we're not really using your asset because you've just consented to be a dead thing walking. And a dead thing walking, a corporation can't own anything, can it? So all that sweat equity you've been putting in to pay your mortgage, your rent really from the bank, is for what? To stand there in front of an administrative court and say, and they say, who are you? And that you say Vatican debt slave, and they say nothing happened here. It's just business, baby. Rubber stamping that. But in the middle of this, we're talking, this is universal source energy that we're giving away. So if we don't grant that, which we don't even know what it is, we don't know what we are and where we're from and what we're capable of, but there is somebody somewhere hypothesizing that what your potential creation is worth this in this column, this in this column, this in this column. So by converting our hypothetical universal source energy into something that has got a different currency now, frequency to it, which is kindness instead of fear, because we no longer fear the unknown because we've been living it all of our lives. And when you lose that fear, that's it, that system that depends on your fear, that I've reached my, they've had me in a cold dark cell for 90 days now and I'm going to contract. Or it's a week for me, or 10 days for me, or whatever. When you've got your soul and everything that you come to realise that they're gambling upon in one hand, and that, then I'd rather be inside a container, to be perfectly honest with you. Because outside people are just pretending to be free, because they compromise their soul in order to walk down the street and breathe oxygen, because that's how bad it was over there where I've just been. We're getting £600, €600 on the spot fines. They were being vaccinated at the schools, and they were, that's what the threat was, and that's when I got off my arse from doing a restoration of rights of our own over there, and determined that it was time to do something. So I put some huge signs above my head in the middle of their media hotspot, which is called the Rakova, and where all the elite go and for their skiing retreats, and simply put in the window the order from the Queen's Bench that these guys and everything that you heard about, that they trust and putting their trust in their own selves, decided to do with Hillston Park. What happened there, I know you said about people getting hurt, but it's prevented 10 million people from having to pay €600 to breathe oxygen. It prevented 17 million people here. How many million people across the world did it support? Because what came from Hillston wasn't the order from the Queen's Bench. Justice Stein, because we put COVID in court and said that these guys, these ministers, there was 10 ministers had gone in the end. They'd arrested the High Court enforcement agent bailiffs who were armed, and that they knew then obviously it was going to be the police and the High Court enforcement agents in the dock. That's why we arrested them. Because they were impersonating police. Now, when you've got that universal standing and you've got that knowledge and awareness of where am I stood in this? Who am I? What am I? If I see a crime from being enacted and I don't do something, I'm an accomplice straight away. So if I see somebody impersonating a police officer or a judge or anything, a banker, a minister, a trustee, it's misrepresentation and it's an unsubstantiated claim. And I've done this to massive police officers in Greece. Nothing that I've said to anybody else isn't anything that I haven't done myself. And so these guys did that. They went in there with that bit of information. Then they found that bit of information, and all they did is they stood on that bit that they trusted and just unleashed unsubstantiated claim as a thing, as something now you need to prove. So what happened is the guys, there was 50 police in the end for 10 ministers. The ministers, 2 of them stayed as ministers. The rest of them contracted over time. They all reached their limit. and for whatever purpose or whatever reason, there was 2 of them in there in the end. They did 21 days, 3 weeks. We're talking, this is the contract law, well, don't call it law, but contract, legal jargon and protocol. And so they, 21 days later, they were actually attending their own habeas corpus hearing on a TVP link, and Justice Stein, we put that the COVID had, they couldn't keep them. It had gone from, what was it, gone from affray, assault of police officers, aggravated burglary, breach of the peace, antisocial behaviour, a great long list, to the fact that they knew that it was going to go to Crown. The CPS and everybody knew that we were going to push it into Crown. This is why we'd done it, to get the relevant parties on the stand. Where is your authority to act? Did you have the right to sell a public asset that was already secured by the same code that you used in order for you to exist in the first place? And they couldn't afford for that to happen. So they quickly got rid of the guys. They said, even though you haven't done anything wrong, we're dropping all of the charges, but COVID is keeping you in the prison. Because you've been in the prison now, you might have COVID. Oh, thank you very much. Now we've got COVID. So we put COVID in the court, and the first thing Justice Stein very kindly said, on record, we said to them, if you initiate this link, you will be coming in and accepting the terms and conditions of our jurisdiction, which is a Ministry of Remedy. You will be acting as a witness in this case with our reference number, and you will be putting your testimony to a bench of 14 ministers, was it, we had there, for you to judge yourself. Is it valid under the law what you did? And so they initiated, they accepted our terms and conditions, we recorded the call. She's on there for everybody to see, stating that coronavirus, it is too great a burden of proof for you to use coronavirus in claims, because the burden of proof is too great in order for you to prove that it exists for you to use it. And I couldn't believe my ears, and I was just like, stamp it! So she did.
Plus we used the COVID certificate to actually get into the court.
Pardon?
And we used the COVID certificate to get into the court.
To get into the court?
Yeah.
The community
Which
record.
they accepted.
This was, so this was even before she stamped it?
Yeah, because that's the first thing they said to us when we went into the court that day, where's your masks? And they said we were immune to COVID, we have a certificate to prove it.
Yeah, so we've been doing the certificates. This is before we had the case.
Yeah.
Because people had gone all over the country. I was saying this, the reason why we got COVID was obviously used 2 years early because we secured Her Majesty's government for a debt of 10 quadrillion on the 25th of February 2020. When we pressed that button, the guy standing behind me was just like, oh my God. It's like the whole universe's energy's looking at us, and I'm like, nah, don't worry about it. 5 days in, and the stock market started to collapse, and I said, you know, we need to get out of Athens because there's going to be a massive lockdown. And then there was 2,000 points wiped off the stock exchange, and then slowly started to see the effects. What happened? In 2019, we secured the rock. Everything that was Greek, everything that is Greek, has been bastardized and turned into Roman. The gods, the language, all of it. Now, before it's even Greek, I don't even want to call it Greek, Hellas. Hellas means rock of light. And Hellenis is the people of the rock of light. And we are all people of the rock of light. Now, which bit of this rock you stand on is irrelevant. We're all one tribe, we're all people of the same rock, of the same light. And so, where is it? And I said this to the immigration and borders and all of that. Where is the line? Where on this imaginary carving up, you know, covered in maps? So where is it that you're from? The universe. All of us have got the same answer. So they're screaming. I mean, they tried to deport me 2 years ago and they couldn't do it. And because of the answers are, I'm not making a claim. I'm not claiming I'm from one of your corporate jurisdictions. I haven't assigned my consent or implied to grant the implied share of this rock to your corporation. So if I haven't done that, I know that you haven't got any asset, you haven't got anything to indemnify your action, your commercial action against me with. And so that's what we've been proving. That's unless you've got your proof of claim, if you've got evidence, bring it. If you haven't, shut up. That's it. Can't go no more now. And we don't, going around saying, you did this and you did this and you did, you prove your claim. So there've been many people who haven't taken the responsibility for themselves and done a few of these steps, and they've gone around and said, she's a fraud, she's this, she can't come back to the country. Okay, here I am. So we're going around, we're doing these pop-up workshops, to exemplify how all of this works. So it doesn't matter whether it's, I haven't got any money and I need to feed my family. You go onto the website, discharge your liabilities, whatever it was you were doing to convert your energy into slave tokens before now, you've just kept, let's say 600 quid, if your bill's 600 quid, you've now got it in your back burner. And so you should, because it's your sweat equity. Then you can take a breath. Then you can start to let in whatever it was that your mind was being preoccupied with, those 600 slave tokens worth of energy, and worry. Now I've got 600 slave tokens worth of energy space to think, oh, everybody's saying, oh, we're all busy and we're pushed for time. It's because you haven't discharged your liabilities. Your life is set up for you to be so easy and enjoyable and happy in a definition that we just have no idea of what's waiting for us. So yes, we're not advising that you all need to go and spend 10 months in a container, but I can recommend it. If grass is really green when you come out. But it was what were we getting back in exchange? So by me doing that, I knew what I was doing when I put those signs above my head. I knew what was at stake, and it was 10 million people's right to breathe oxygen or not. And so I thought, okay, well, I know they can't really keep me for two life sentences because I haven't got any equitable rights that I've assigned to any corporate fiction. So, if you're going to do it to anybody, it might as well be. And that's what we did, and then they had to traffic me making their own papers with somebody else's face on it, somebody else's name on the document with a face that was mine 2 years ago that they took in the prison because I wouldn't give them my picture, and they made their own documents and trafficked me screaming through Heathrow Airport to the British police with my pyjamas on because I really did not. It was the worst case scenario for them, for what they had to do, because we just set a precedence that if me and 4 of my friends say that I'm Mickey Mouse, and somebody at the other side of this imaginary line that doesn't really exist says, yeah, she's Mickey Mouse, I'll be Mickey Mouse and we can all go to Florida. That is what they've set as a precedence by doing what it is that they're doing. How we're going to apply this now, something on disclosure yet. So we just don't know. It's completely blown another portal, let's say, and the potential of what we're able to exemplify and questions that need answering now. I'm shouting to the British police, the Greek police, for like, quick, we're officers, and this guy's on this, got his pink t-shirt on for Heathrow helper, and he's like, oh, officers, opens the VIP line, and I'm like, is this red alert, is this like red alert, terrorist, high terrorist alert, security standards in Heathrow Airport, come along, are you not asking him, where is his papers that he's a police officer, and even if he's a police officer, he hasn't got any jurisdiction, we recorded it all. He hasn't got any jurisdiction here, and they've held me for 10 months in a detention centre and starved me and tried to force me into contract with something I haven't got the right of use of. The Greek police are like, please, missus, please be kind, please be kind. I'm like, please be kind. So the British police come flying over then, and they're like, madam, are you all right? No, I'm not all right. I haven't got any handcuffs on at this point, but I did make them handcuff me to take me out. If I hadn't made them handcuff me, I would have been contracting I would have been consenting to be that legal fiction. And so they're saying to me, come on, come as a tourist. Come as we won't want to put the handcuffs on you. I said, there is no way you're getting me out of here without handcuffs and a straitjacket if you need it. Because I am not coming as that, I'm not consenting to be that thing. Because if I had, they would have been able to take me straight to immigration. Do you want us to put on you on the plane? No, I don't want to go on the plane. But I've already contracted with the legal fiction, so nothing really happened here, remember? So then they would have been able to imply that I have asked them to minister my right to stay on this bit of this rock. And obviously, I could have done that at any time, but I knew that at that point, if I did do that, they could put a charge against me then, this massive charge, worth 88 million slave tokens at the front end. I could buy it off. I could pay 88 million and get out of there. So it tells you exactly the amount of value of this structure that we've been helping to share with people. If you can buy your way out. We've got an order over here. We can make 88 million out of you at the front end, which means 10 to the power of 10, 880 million, which just happens to be the exact amount that was the first quarter of 2016 when we first started discharging these debts for people. So in a short, what did we do? We used their system back at them. We accumulated these debts by them not, the process, you know the process, 3 letters, 90 days, didn't discharge it, come and take your asset. So imagine that a massive corporation just went through that process. The official receivers have moved in now, and who are the official receivers? You are all officially receiving back the charges that you were creating for yourself, blackmailing yourself with your rights here, your right to shelter, my house, and I've discharged those charges that I've assigned to my kindness credit account using my asset, and I'm now the secured party creditor instead of the unsecured party creditor to Her Majesty's government. And I have retired my asset from their hypothesis. And those are the steps that we take people through. So you discharge a mortgage. You obviously then, what have I got to do in return? Well, you've got to put your 5 hours a week into your community. We want to open up these kindness credit outlets like we've done in the Icaria, Samos. You come in the outlet that they call the shop, and you want an organic coffee. Now, normally, because I open a shop, I have to have a license, I have to pay tax, I have to pay electricity, all of those things. The price of the coffee to actually bring from Guatemala and to give to you is 50 cents a cup, really. But because I'm a capitalistic and I think that I need to make profit and that I need to pay all of these charges and I've got all of these liabilities, they've got organic coffees, €4.50, £4.50. Now most people, if they're lucky, they're getting €8 an hour. Somebody told me that was even above the minimum wage. That's half an hour's work and more for 1 cup of coffee. So most people would drink Nestle or something genetically modified because that's all they can afford. They can't afford €4.50 on coffee. So, because I don't want you to kill yourself slowly or quickly for Nestle or any other pharmaceutical industry, because I know that when you buy that coffee, your stock goes up the next day in pharmaceuticals, for the job that I used to do, I would like you to just have organic coffee. And so, here, come in to the outlet, want an organic coffee, okay, put 50 cents on that table there, and I'm going to give you a rock. My money is in my bag. And I'll give you a rock, this rock, any rock. And now I'll say to you, okay, what did you say you wanted? Organic coffee? 1 rock, please. Give you the coffee, write a receipt, 1 coffee, 1 rock. What do I pay my tax with? Rocks. So, Mr. Taxman, because in your legislation, if I use your slave token at my point of sale, I'm in already by tactic agreement performance. I've got an obligation of performance to the HMRC to pay these charges for using their fiat currency mechanism, really, is the bottom line. What if I don't do that? They haven't got a foot to stand on. What if I contact them and say, and put a big sign up and say, hey, come on over here, I'm exchanging coffee for rocks. And last year I exchanged 10,000 coffees for 10,000 rocks. How many rocks do you want? You want 25% of everything that I accept at point of sale, yeah? Yeah. Take 2,500 rocks. There you go. I said, well, that is really the reason why they wanted to give me 2 life sentences, because it is that little nugget that sets all of us free, because you converted your energy into a currency that you are in charge of. It's your energy. It's your rock. It's if I say to you, right, okay, I'll come and get dressed up in my minister's outfit and go into the car and shout, where's the contract for you if you fix my car for me when I need it? Did we need money? No. But I need fuel to get in the car to go to the individual's court case, for example. Well, actually, really what I should be doing is going into the petrol station and saying, hey, where's your licence as a revenue collector from HMRC? Because you haven't got one. So if you haven't got one, then you are collecting revenue unlawfully and illegally, and I am not obliged to pay you. Therefore, call the cops. Now, most people just pay it because they don't want to go work. What if I took away all of those liabilities? I can't say no, I'm not going to say anything, because I've run out of excuses. I've got no reason to go to slave for the job, because I was only doing that to pay the electricity, gas, the water and the council tax. I've discharged all of that. I've got not just 5 hours a week to give to my community, I've got my whole life. I said, no, it's not a job. I'm not thinking about what we're going to do when I'm too old. You know, I don't need to think about those things, because I know that when I did these years ago, the only thing, we had a big council meeting, brought these people on the council, and in the end, the only thing this woman could say to me was, what mascara do you wear? And where do you get your clothes from? But they're actually second-hand. And this is what I'm saying to you, when you put your trust in the universe, I've got my last pair of shorts on, last pair of jeans that I'd brought from Samos to Athens to go to this court case to ask the Epicratia, the Supreme Court of State, with a contract, so they have to have a contract with the people of the country. And I went in there to ask, where's your contract? And they haven't got one. So I went over there with just a pair of jeans on to Athens, thinking I'll be back in a few days, and then obviously coronavirus. And I'm walking into this place in Discharge thinking, it's really hot now, it's April, and I've got to cut my jeans into shorts because I don't buy anything. And just exchange it. And so I said to the guy that I was with, what am I going to do, if I chop these into shorts? And as we walked around the corner, he said, the universe will come up with something. There is 3, and I kid you not, 3 massive bags of men's, women's and children's clothes, all designer, even with the labels still in them on some of them, all what I would buy as a corporate slut. I kid you not. And so we made 3 trips to the bins and back. And so when the police got me this time, they were like, oh, we've seen you with your posh clothes. You're a capitalist. And I found them by the bin. And like, because it's the reason why the clothes are there by the bins, because they just don't do charity shops. They won't imagine putting feet in somebody else's shoes. They're really bad over there about those kind of things. So they never, can't expect Minister Emoven standing up there at Rakova to be admitting she wears second-hand clothes. But this is what we're talking about. We don't really, what do we need, And so hopefully by doing these 5 hours exchange, I'll put our 5 hours in. Somebody wants to help open the shop, or I'll do 5 hours in the shop, I'll serve the organic coffee, I'll open the website, put somebody's details in there, press send, that's their debt's done. What would you like to put in the pot in exchange for that? Well, I'd like to teach children Greek. Oh, great. So now we've opened a ledger book. All of these things have all come together in this one structure, which is Kindness Credits, We Buy Any Debt, and Universal Law Community Trust with BAM, Big Blue Asset Management, as your official receiver for you to use to be your own self-determining government telling yourself what to do.
So when you go into Universal Law Community Trust, you're really going into your own trust.
Yeah, it's it's not something separate. It's like you've been separated into all of these different definitions, and you're going, if anybody's going to pimp my asset out, it's going to be me. If anybody's going to play commercial intercourse on my rights, it's going to be me. And I don't really want to play that dirty game of commerce anyway, so nobody's playing it. How do I stop people playing commerce with my rights? I stop claiming that I'm their thing. And that is it really in a nutshell. And that's how you restore your rights. The rest of it all comes along. You could go on holiday, 5 hours exchange. You might do somebody's hair, for example. And the individual who you've just cut the hair of might make cheese. It's not an exchange. You don't eat cheese. So it's not a direct exchange that way, but there's 5 hours of somebody's cheese in there to exchange for somebody who does eat cheese, who fixes cars. See what I mean? It doesn't all have to be direct. Because if you look at how the stock exchange works, that's why they brought in COVID. So they underwrote all of this because they couldn't use the ROC anymore because we secured that with Hellenic Republic's filing. They couldn't use the legal fiction system anymore, which represented Her Majesty's government because of the securitisation in February 2020 of Her Majesty's government. And so they had to bring in something else to underwrite this to allow for the corporate governments to still appear to exist. And so as long as they followed the narrative, they could use the people's DNA then, that they were getting everybody to peacefully surrender as the collateral with a rapid test to underwrite that. And then have Bill Gates stump up this numbers on a screen, which is the reason why they were using Hillston Park and other asset stripping to swap the asset with the debt that was being built with Furlong and all of these things, to put us back in as bon of a canter, which is unclaimed estate, once more into the pot. So we stopped that. And, you know, in your community, it was just a couple of people. You don't need less people. All of this has come from just really one person showing another person, showing another person, showing another person, and that is it. And that's, you know, there's the only fraud that we do is stop committing fraud on ourselves. And, you know, that's the bottom line. So it makes me laugh when everybody's like, oh, she wants your national insurance account number. It's not yours. Oh, it's not your national insurance account number. I'm just trying to help you stop screwing yourself over by using it. And that's, and at any time you can say, okay, it's not for me. I'm a Vatican debt slave. Get me out of here.
What about if you wanted to sort of create your own trust with friends, but still be friends, as it were, with the Universal Law Community Trust, or almost like taking a blueprint and using it in your own trust?
That's the idea.
That's the idea.
That's
so then you get groups and you get individual sort of clusters that can communicate, be friends with each other, and exchange with each other.
Community works, isn't it? So it's like you're the trust of yourself, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And then as a family, you've got now a trust between the family members. Then you've got, so that's your family trust. Then you've got a community of people who trust in universal law, and we're all exchanging together, and those communities of people exchanging that trust with one another just exponentially. Look at the Mandela effect. Look at what happens. This is, for the COVID was really to highlight what we can do with our belief, for me.
What we can do with that one?
What we can do with our belief, what we can create, how much to the negativity. So if we can create that level of reality from a hypothesis, then just look at what we can create in the exact opposite frequency to the same degree. So that's why I was going around in the van spraying people with the antidotes in the bag, put some labels on some undisclosed contents, and went around and sprayed people with it, and then gave them a certificate. And they, even before all of this happened, for 2 years, for as soon as the coronavirus hit, we had people coming from France to England and back, Spain to England and back, Greece to England and back, to prove that it's just a hypothesis. Rebut the presumption. Where is your proof? And
yeah, because it's proof, not facts, isn't it?
The burden of proof is on the claimant. If I'm claiming that there is a coronavirus, then I need to prove it, don't I? If there's, you know, But nobody asked. You said, oh my God. So, okay, if you like that, and that's what they were coming into the shop then. We put the signs outside, an antidote testing station, and you're free, because they were charging £8, one kindness credit, £8, for a rapid test. So if you didn't have the vaccine, you had to have 3 rapid tests every week, or be vaccinated, triple vaccinated, or they'd take your money out your pension. That's what those people were left with over there. And still they went and put their trust in a corporation. Now you can't trust a corporation, can you? Because it's a corporation. So why would you put all of your trust in a corporation, any corporation? A cooperation built in trust, that's a different thing. So they took the word trust, that feeling that you've got, and hijacked it and made it into 3 circles on a screen. So however you want to do this is completely, it's just a structure. People have said, how did you do it? Okay, it's here. If anybody wants to
Use it.
use it. You've got the right abuse of it, but use it right. Don't use it to pop up and sell a few drugs behind it and then say, I'm Minister Emoven. No, you're not. Or, capitalising on somebody else's creativity or productivity or whatever. So I was just going to say, there's, people take this that we give freely and they sell it. You know that. 10,000 slave tokens somebody's selling the information that I gave to them for free. If you want to go over there and you want to pay £10,000 for it, then okay. But if somebody's asking you for that, then they're not doing it right, are they? Are they? So always ask them why. What we've said to people is obviously we need some slave tokens, like the room for the, we can't go and discharge. Really, I should go and discharge the charges for the church, that'd be quite funny. But I don't think they're going to be very open to that at the moment, and for now, maybe in a few weeks. But the discharging these charges for slave tokens, while people are still using them, there's still going to be slave tokens. Which is why they're scrambling, trying to get people to just swipe the card and we don't take cash. But the percentage of the slave tokens that we use is so much less, that it's completely, negligible. And so we said to people, if you're saving £1,000 a week, £1,000 a month, put 100 quid in your community pot so that we can go to it and say, right, okay, well, it's come from the pot, this. It's not come from any one individual's back burner. And so we can stand surety to one another. So if somebody's got a problem and they're stuck up a mountain somewhere, we showed people this with the online account that we did. We put one kindness credit in the account, we did 10 exchanges, so there should have been 80 quid in the pot, but there wasn't, because we all shared the belief that one kindness credit, if I want to cash it out, is that amount of fuel in my conveyance or car, or a litre of olive oil. We all met at the mind that one kindness credit is worth that. It's priceless. Because if you convert your currency or exchanges into a currency that doesn't use fiat, for every one that you don't pay in, you stop 10 to the power of 10 being created in the fiat currency mechanisms. That's why if it's 88 million that you don't put into the system, it's 880 billion of fiat currency that can't make. So each one of these little parts to this is exactly how they've taken your energy away, and you've secured that. Put all your energy back in the pot. Say, right guys, you say we want to grow some food. Yeah, come on, let's go grow some food. You're not restricted, you're unlimited.
Yeah, I think, do you want to put it open to a Q&A?
Yeah, if anybody's got any questions.
But I think that's worth a round of applause. So yeah, any questions, please feel free.
Yeah, well, first of all, Pete Bow for everything you've done. All of you think it's amazing. First, what's the number? The number thing then? 01.
010. Okay, so when there's ledger books, okay, and I didn't believe that we needed any kind of ID at all, because it's all cornflake packet and Billy Peter badge, sticky back plastic stuff, when you look at the ID that you get anyway from the government or whatever. But some ministers had come over for some training in Samos, and they've just started doing this, and they were like, what if we get stopped at customs, you know, for council tax, for example, because there was all that psyops where they were doing this media coverage of these people getting imprisoned at Heathrow Airport for not paying a council tax. And so I said, look, okay, look, make yourself some. I'll make you an ID card right now. Diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle-diddle, write in a book, you're that one, that one, that one, that one. One of them actually had a fight with us because she wanted to be 007. 007. And I knew it. Whether I projected that into being, I don't know, but she did actually argue the toss and with somebody else and said, can I swap numbers with you? And I was just like, why? She said, well, you know, it says 007. And I'm like, are you? No, you definitely can't. If that's what you think, that it matters, you know. So somebody else got that, and I didn't have one, and they put me in the prison the first time round, and they were screaming, so where's your ID? Where's your ID? So on the phone call, I just said to my friend who was outside, and just go on the laptop. I sent my laptop out. Go on the laptop and just give me whatever number's next on the thing, on the ledger. And so I came out, it was 9 had gone before me, and 010 was next. So that's how that came. And there's 22 million accounts of people who try to do some things. They, generally speaking, you know, after a few hours with somebody, their intention, what are they here for, what do they want to do? And so this is proven that it's not about how many, it's not quantity, it's quality of people. And so, you know, it's that. And we've got some amazing people, really, really amazing people, but we would never have connected with if it hadn't been for this. So, you know, it's nothing that, I just thought, right, okay, what if I take the number plates off, what'll happen? And turn them over and write a polito, which is non-disclosure in Greek, on the number plate. And that was the beginning of it. Bye-bye. Nice to see you. Bye. Thanks for coming. Bye.
Are they really shitting it now? Then?
It's hilarious. You need to come with us. When we went into Llanelli, so what you do is you put Minister Emoven at your address with the liabilities. So you pick up the phone and say, hello, I'm Minister Emoven, I've just moved in as a liability holder at this address, please update your records. And the bill comes to Minister Emoven. Now immediately you've separated the liabilities of your utilities from the liability holder, if you're still using that legal fiction, of your house. Do you see? Do you get that? You don't get that? Okay. So tomorrow, once you've been on the website and you've assigned your consent back to yourself, you're no longer crediting the legal fiction to be the unlimited liability holder in due course for their corporate sheet system. That's what you're doing. And so you pick up the phone and you say, hello, I'm Minister Emoven. You're now the Minister of your own energy and maritime movement, aren't you? You realise that I was having Boris Johnson Minister of my energy that I get given to him. So I've taken that back. And I'm now responsible as Minister of Emoven, as the liability holder in due course at this address. So then the bills go into Minister Emoven's name.
Minister of Emoven.
Minister. Emoven. E-M-O-V-E-N.
Minister.
Minister, yeah, we're ministering with your,
Give it up.
Basically, we're all Minister Emoven, but then we all got our own numbers. So we know internally for stuff like that. But if we talk about revenue collector, someone, you know, one of them, your minister is my ID. That's my photograph of Minister Emoven. That's it. That's all they get out of me. That's it. My slave name is just well gone. For 2 years now, I've been out of the system, and I haven't looked back. I haven't had to work. I was ill as well, so bills and that was mounting up. I've now fell behind on my council tax, and in the end I just signed it all over, phoned them all up, said I was Minister Emoven, I just moved into the property. I've been there for 40 years. They don't know that though. So all the bills started coming from Minister Emoven. They supplied me universal trust meters, gas, electric. My water is gone as well, because I didn't agree to have all that poison put in it. So basically I haven't paid anything for like 2.5 years. I just paid 10% of what I was paying. So if anything comes legal or lawfully, I just say there's my suppliers there, the Universal Law Community Trust. Go and have a word with them. And it's done.
And we say
you don't have to speak to anybody. It's easy. Honest to God. Get your meters in. I don't know what you're all waiting for.
Do they not, the administration lot and the phones and stuff, do they not argue it?
No, they come to me. That's my 5 hours. I love it. Give me a bill and like, ring me up, and I'm like, hello, I'm Minister Emoven. I'd like to make you an offer of settlement. Would you like me to knock the 10 grand that you're saying is owed on this account, would you like me to knock it off Her Majesty's Government overall debt of 10 quadrillion and this account number 2020-2200? Or would you like me to knock it off this one over here, which is Bristol Water, 20 blah blah blah, because that's overdrawn as well to a tune of 20 million. So which one would you like me to discharge the 10 grand that you're saying my beneficiary owes you off? Would you like A, overdrawn account, or B, overdrawn account? Because that is what they did to you all. And that really is what we're trying to help you get your heads around. You account for yourself in your own currency. You reserve your rights from being implied to be okay to be trespassed upon and capitalised upon, and it's that really. You looked a little bit like this when he said, sorry, I've got my squinty eye out tonight. So
you're quiet. I'm a little bit deaf, so I don't know.
No, it's this lady behind you, just this lady behind you. When he said he had his meters changed to free energy meters, you went a little bit like that. Did you have a question about that?
To what?
To free energy meters. We changed the meter because it's the meter that's trespassing on your supply.
Yeah, there is. I didn't really have a question about that, but I know that people are changing their meters.
Yeah.
So that's probably just why I sort of picked up on that.
They're restoring their rights to their share of this rock, and that's why it's all going now on the chip. So that's why this part is really important, which is the 5 hours. It's not very well said, okay, I've got £600 more a month in my pocket. I'll go down TK Maxx and buy myself this and this and this and this and this, because you're just putting it back in the system. So it's about, what do I do with that? Okay, now, so we've got 600 quid that this account, that this trust is saved, family trust now. They've put 60 in the pot as a community. So we can start to open a shop then. We can go and say, right, are you all in agreement, democratic? Do you agree that we open an outlet and that we're going to do, we buy any debt out of there and give people organic food, turn it into a one-stop shop like we've done, so that they can come, discharge the liabilities in that corner, go over there, have an organic coffee in this corner, put the 5 hours in over here in this corner, and then organise in this corner where they're going to go next week to do 5 hours of introducing this to the people or growing food or whatever. So it's an energy, it's actually a bureau of change. It's the bureau of change, and that's what you're doing. So if one family trust has got 600 and 600 and 600 and 600 and 600 and 600, you've banked your energy out of their system, haven't you? And so now you can, as a community, you can say, right, okay, well, what are we going to do now? We've got all of this, we can pool our reserved energy. So if we talk about reserved, fiat reserve and all of this, it's your energy that you're reserving the right for, if we were to use their definition for it. And so if you turn around and you say, right, he said 5 hours of cleaning the water, and he said 5 hours, and he said 5 hours, and he said 5 hours. Now you can put a shout out and say, right, okay, we want people who want to do growing food, we want people who want to look after animals. So you've created your own community. And so, and you have a right under their administrative acts and statutes to do exactly what they did when they became a private corporation. They were only able to become a private corporation if there was something called the Monopolies and Mergers Commission Act to turn around and say, everybody can do it. Okay, so what if I came and knocked on your door and said, hello, do you want to create your own council? Yes. Do you want to be responsible for the roads? Yes. Because look at this bunch of pants. It's not the guys that are doing the work. You know, the guys are doing the job. Why are they getting paid peanuts? And the accounting, well, all of the funds and all of the energy of the people in the community is being invested in a Credit Suisse via Halliburton, into Halliburton via Credit Suisse, into bombs and weapons and war, and we're crediting that. So, when people say it's not done in my name, it is. Yes.
I think thus far, I've sort of skirted around this for a bit, but thus far I haven't done anything because I'm on my own with 3 children.
Right.
And just, obviously my main priority is looking after them, making sure they're not put in any, well, I'm going to say hardship or, danger. Do you think I can...
Are you not already, are you not, even if you're thinking about it, you're already living in a hardship and a dangerous environment. We all are. And we're paying our persecutors to be there. So,
I suppose there, sorry to bump them, there is a lot of fear which needs to be removed, and I'll give you an example. Like Tyrone was saying, he discharged all his liabilities. One thing that he was worried about, sorry I was speaking for you here, but was he had what do you call it for your council tax, a summons. So he was a little bit worried about it, and what we did, we got his birth certificate, sellotaped it to a little pink unicorn, which is dog food. We took it to the court the day before his hearing, and he said, here's Mr. Tyrone Power, represented by this birth certificate. He's got a court case tomorrow, so we've brought him today to make sure he's not late. He put him on the counter, and there was 2 security guys looking at each other. and then the judge came out, this big large woman, she came down the stairs, and as soon as she heard the word birth certificate, her face changed, and she just said, thank you guys, there won't be any court case tomorrow. And that was it. It took literally 3 minutes and off we walked.
because it's the truth. So what is the coronavirus? The coronavirus is the truth that infected crown corporations.
Can I just say that I had a recorded delivery the next day in the forms I give them, right? My assignment of consent for my slave name with a front print on it saying no one had right of use of it. And I was and I took the unicorn in, and the clerk came out and said, well, if I'm going to ask the unicorn, it's not going to answer me the unicorn. He says, all right, I'll speak to the unicorn, because I've got assignment of consent for the unicorn. And I said, obviously, I'm going to see the judge's assignment of consent, and I'm going to have to see your assignment of consent as well. So you're going to have to be after getting there is trust and all that. And anyway, she said, well, we won't be dealing with this case today. But when they sent all my stuff back the next day by recorded delivery, it literally said, because I'm paid for a couple of years council tax anyway, they'd already sent Jacobs, the bailiffs, they already sent some to them before. So it was a few grand anyway, we built up. But they said, can you please ask Mr. Tyrone Power to ring this number to settle this debt, or there may be another summons in due course. And that was 2 years ago, I haven't heard nothing since, and that was it. And that was the end of that. So that's how I lost my fear then. I realised how easy it was. And all these just trying to trick you into saying, is that your name, or do you understand? And when you go into the Bovier's online dictionary and have a look what understand means, and as long as you don't get into them traps, yeah, and just don't never ever say that's your slave name, they can't do anything, just stops them straight away. Because they need that to proceed into the next questions of fishing and
That's
bullshit.
their contract.
So if you stop them at the start, that's it. They don't go any further.
It's
No one
not-
comes the way. So I chased the bailiffs away. The last bailiff about 3 months ago come to and literally I was pissed off because I already told him to F off before, and they were putting things through the door to my slave name. Anyway, when I went outside, he was still inside in the car, and he had the same black Volvo as my neighbour. I thought, but it was just this big guy sat in there. So I knew my dressing gown on Friday morning, at 7 in the morning as well. I just had a smoke as well, like stoned as well. So anyway, I go down, let the dog out. So I sees him in the car, he's down doing something, so I just marches up my flip-flops and my dressing gown. And I just got his windscreen wiper, pulled it up like that, slammed the leather back down on the put it in, I went out. And that was it, and I would just never hear nothing again, and that's how easy it is. Like. That's how easy it is.
It's empowering. It's about taking back your power, and it's that. The more that you do, the more powerful you become. Until it doesn't matter what's facing you, you know you've got your trust in universal law. That's going to get me through this, no matter what. No matter whether you suddenly, your whole world's turned upside down. It's like, okay, I'm with it because the universal law's at work. That's it. And yes, it might start to sound fanatical and they're like, it's a cult and all this lot, but what's universal law? It's inside a Fibonacci. It's the golden ratio. I don't know what it is. Do you know? So let's stop pretending we know and say, none of us really know, but come on, let's go grow some carrots.
And there are lots of people in the trust with kids. We've got communities down in South Wales.
And I tried to go down the common law route and all that a few years ago, but I got a bit of dementia and all that. But I just couldn't get my head around. There's a lot of stuff if you want to go down the common law route. You've got to go in a system in commerce, and you've got to really know what you're doing. So what I did, I thought, fuck, that is the easiest thing. I just give it all to the ULCT and just went, you do it. And at the end of the day, my bills, and that's all they did, my bills, I wasn't, I got rid of my mortgage and paid out, but it was only like whatever it was, a few £100 a week. So basically, for all that stress, for just 10% of what I was, like £300, I just give £30 a month.
Into the community.
All my bills are gone for £30 a month, and if any coppers, any bailiffs, anyone knocks the door, I say, well then, go and ring them. You're done.
And who stands for the
ULC?
That's your
I'm Minister Emoven.
Yeah.
And
And
just
that's my
go
trust.
and deal with them.
Don't speak to my trust.
And they just bother with people, all the lawful stuff, all this stuff they used to, they just throw it all back at them. And just make them what they tried to make us, we just put it back on them, so they're the customer, if you like. And just get rid of it, but it's a lot easier, if you want to do it, then you have to know a lot to go in these court systems, because they're rigged, they're all bent.
Yeah.
They're all bent, they do what they want, they make it up as they go along, right, and then they just bent. So you don't want to go to court, ever, unless you commit a crime. Don't commit a crime. As long as you don't commit a crime, cause harm or loss to anybody, they'll help you, and you never go to court. Simple as that, because they'll rebut it straight away. And it just takes all the stress out of anybody knocking your door, losing anything, everything's gone, and you just hand it over to them. And for a poxy few slave tokens a month, I haven't got to worry about working anymore. I give my business up anyway, I give my first certificate up, I give it all up. So I knew what was coming, this credit score and this carbon score and social score. I knew about this a long time before.
Anyone else got any sort of burning questions at the back there?
UniversalLawCommunityTrust.com. UniversalLawCommunityTrust.com or .org.
And it's on YouTube as well, the
Yeah,
Emoven channel?
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, Emoven channel and Universal Law Community Trust channel on YouTube. And it's got step-by-steps, it's even got the scripts on there. You can, it's a pop-up minister, and then you can even go and buy yourself a robe. And then they go in the court and they kiss your hand. Oh, Mrs. Minister. No, please. I didn't say I was the minister of you, just the minister of myself. Yes, look.
Question. In relation to land, because you're talking about slave coins and all, say you've got zero, you've got nothing, we're God's children, I've got this common land, Can you stake a claim on land?
That's what we talked about right at the beginning. That's how this group really came about, because they used the Restoration of Rights, UCC 96 or 9610,
Right.
to restore their rights, and that's what the process is for discharging your liabilities. So there's obviously different circumstances. So let's say I haven't got a mortgage, like you said, you've got no overheads, you've got your time and your energy that you want to put in. So you've already kept your energy out of that slavery system, more so than somebody who's got a big debt. You'd exercise your right of use, really. We don't recommend going and causing liability for anybody else. So let's say the reason that how I've done it in the past is gone and said these people, everybody's got a problem with the banks, for example. So my right of use from a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment in the middle of Samos came about because I went and I gave my 5 hours to stop the bank stealing this woman's whole complex, and she gave me 5 years right of use of a 2-bedroom apartment in exchange, so that I didn't have to pay, convert my energy into slave tokens, ask people to give me money to pay for the rent on it, and it was done as a direct exchange. She meant that she could rent out the other apartment that she'd been too scared to rent out before because it was finished. So it's what you're giving in exchange. How do we restore our rights in multifaceted ways, really? We've got a farmer, for example, haven't we, who's got a problem at the moment going through a divorce settlement. He's got a massive, great big farm. We've said to him, look, we don't want you. It's like, I haven't got any money, I've paid all the lawyers, we don't want your money. Put in a section of the land, or 5 cows a year, or whatever it is. It's about something, it's about your energy before I convert it into money, before I call myself a Vatican debt slave, before I accept slavery and tie my chain to somebody else's chain. So there's different ways to go about it, but people who've got a portfolio of properties, for example, who's struggling at the moment, this is why we need to set up these outlets so that people can come and say, will you buy any debt? What do you mean, will you buy any debt? Come in, what have you got? I've got a portfolio, bloody nightmare, COVID, all of this, lost my business, and the bank's going to come and steal it, and this will far away from bankruptcy. Okay, give the right of use of one of these buildings to the community, so that somebody who hasn't got a credit rating on, they don't want to get into that, they can exercise their right to shelter through it. So that's what we do.
But that's still relative to ownership?
No, it's exercising your right of use. It's not, it's the right of use as the thing. You're not making a claim that it's mine. And I'm only exercising my right of use of it because I've done a fair exchange with somebody. I said to, for example, this woman who's an Emoven, who she wasn't before, she was going to lose all of it. Do you see what I mean? So we created her a family trust. So you can't take it with you when you go. Obviously she gets that. So she's only exercising the right of use of it anyway between her and her sister. But rather than her exercise the right of use of it, the bank wanted to steal the whole lot from her. So by me giving my 5 hours, I stopped the bank. She gave me what I needed, which was right at that point, a right to shelter. I was without anywhere to stay. So it's a clean exchange. It's not, and nobody's. I'm not saying, right, this is mine for 5 years. You know, if I'm not there and she needs somebody to give to one of the refugees, for example, which is what she's done in the past, go, it's not mine. I've just got, we're all time sharing everything anyway, aren't we? Even our bodies. So when we get over that claiming and saying, I need the title, I think claiming the title gives me the right of use. Actually, it doesn't. It makes you the liability holder of the title. Put the title in your trust and do what Rothschild's been screaming at you all this time. Own nothing and control everything. And that's what you do. So they couldn't... Sorry, go on.
No, I was
Is that okay?
But what if you mentioned the farmer who could, hasn't got much money, but you could some rents or give you some of the land to use. What about land that's got, is there common land that you can claim?
You need a trust. You need your community who you can trust for that to stand with you. If you're just going to go in and turn around and say, right, okay, this is what we did with Hillston Park. We just said, right, here is an asset that they're selling. Look at this massive asset list that they had for Monmouthshire Council, wasn't it? And the asset that they were just trying to get rid of at dirt cheap, because it was just laundry. They're just laundering it. If it wasn't about how much profit they were going to make in the coffers for the public purse, it was getting this out of the public, off this asset ledger and into COVID's indemnity pot, if you like. So if the people, it depends what you want to get out of it, really. We did this restoration of rights, you could call it, down in Bournemouth in 2014. And from that, we got a massive organisation of people to move, to get involved, and created Organic Roots Project. And we had 40 armed police officers to get us off the land, which obviously was great for marketing on the BBC. And they hammered us, do you know what I mean? So obviously the people who know about the BBC, if the BBC is slating you off, she's a good one, do you know what I mean? If they're saying good things about you, don't go near them. So that, by going and doing this, the more people who start to restore the rights, you're going to find that there's less and less grasp the council have got, because if they can only say that we are ruled by consent because the people in the community keep consenting to that name. If you've gone door to door and you've explained all of this to people, next time we have a meeting in here, it'll be full, because everybody will be like, right, okay, yeah, I can discharge my liabilities, pick my organic food up from here, because I haven't even done 5 hours this week because nobody wanted to learn Greek. But it's there, my offer was there. It's like insurance. If my water's pouring with water, I don't want a dentist. Why is a dentist more expensive than a roofer? At that point where the power of now, right now, the most important thing to me right now was the roofer. So, we're all equally unlimited in our potential creation. And so by taking that, because they're doing that, they know that, and they're using that inside their system of hypothesis, take that out and say, okay, if I'm going to potentially create anything that's going to be, I don't know, I can't tell you, but whatever it is, it's together with all of these amazing people. So yes, you have got the right to do that, but you do need you need the support of the people in your community, because they are going to slate you off on BBC. And if you haven't done that, that's where we fell down with Hilson Park, because it was just done like that, and we hadn't put the indemnity, the insurance part in for the fallout of what was going to come within the community. And we hadn't indemnified our action enough, really. That's, I think, about the lessons learned. And so but what we got out of it, aside from the fact that the community think that we're all completely crazy and we were operating a cult, which is what they got told.
Yeah, they saw us as squatters.
Squatters, cults, we've had it all.
That was even the awake community, people in the awake community.
But it wasn't even the police who come and got you out, was it? It was like the mercenaries, didn't it? They come and get you out. It wasn't the police side.
No,
we rang the police, they didn't turn up.
Yeah, so if you hadn't read the numbers there, they would have been knackered.
Yeah.
I mean, getting water cannons. So stay away.
Well, I do recall somebody screaming, "Get the outside!"
So what was your intention when you went to
To highlight the rights that you've got, to highlight the part in the timeline, if you like, where we're at now, because people keep going, you need to do through the process. That's already been done, guys. You're past that point. You're the equivalent of the official receiver. You're receiving your own shit, using your asset, your equitable rights to discharge it. So I'm Minister Emoven, and I'm more than happy to discharge the charges in the same way they were created. Every single one of you can say that. So the intention there was many things, really to exemplify this, to show the community that, what a tiny little bit of trust can do once it's released into the community, because, you did it.
It was an outdoor
Some
activity
people
centre as well, and we wanted to restore that and have it as like a healing centre and
It was an asset for the community. It belonged to the
Potentially, it was
community.
huge. It was,
Nobody asked the community what do they want doing with it, and that's why it needed to be stopped and say, hang on, community, this is your asset. But we lost that, obviously, ability to be able to speak to the community at that point because it had already been psyopsed into, ULCT, gonna come and get you. And really, you know, it turned out that nobody actually had to do anything other than walk in there because the universe had already prepared the whole thing, hadn't it? Yeah. Is that, well, should we say this? I can't incriminate you. Somebody was restoring their rights to public asset on behalf of the public, and another individual walked round the gate that was being ministered, and the keys for the whole building were waiting on the table inside the building that the door was standing open to, and the universe supplied the keys to every single building. So, yes.
it's the most stressful year of my life.
Allegedly. 2022?
So aside from the YouTube channels and things like that, how are you doing door to door? I was thinking about maybe you could do an article in the Light.
He doesn't like me because me and he,
I'm
Darren,
Yeah.
he doesn't like me because he thinks it's common law, and he's tried common law and it didn't work for him. And I've tried to explain to him that it's not. And what happens is, especially with the men, and I don't mean this to single anybody out, but it's like, how can it be so simple that I'm a complex individual? You know, that I was saying that I define myself with a molecular science degree. How can it be so simple? And when you realise how simple it is, it is about then you start to have to strip away all of these other things that you kind of maybe got a little bit, let's say, egotistical about. I don't know, but it's very easy to just step out of it and say, okay, you know, we didn't know. That's it. None of us knew. None of us did. So we all start from that point. Then the ego, it doesn't matter. You keep the ego out of it. So
are there other ways that are going door to door?
and these pop-up shops, and we've got leaflets. We're giving out leaflets.
With us tonight, so.
And you just create your own community, so it's about standing surety to one another. So by putting, let's say I put 10% of what I say. And come around with us if you want to, if you're interested in doing that. Because that'd be great for 5 hours, is to say, right, okay, well, I did a documentary that got 50,000 people up off their arse in Stroud and Gloucester. And are you local here, yeah?
I'm about half an hour away.
Right.
Science system.
And if we can get this information out, because there is a script, and we've had ministers going out, knocking on doors, saying, Minister Emoven, I'm here to do a health and safety check. Are you feeling healthy and are you feeling safe? Did you know about the restoration of rights of the creditors? You know.
How big is the community?
There's different communities. We've got Universal Life Church, which is where we went in to get ourselves ordained as ministers. So you can go onto the ulc.org, is it? ulc.org, and become an ordained minister. And that's why there's a picture of the Pope on there, and that's why they have to get the Pope out to excommunicate me on live TV, because I did all of this live on Sky and Open TV at Christmas, just before Christmas last year, and did what I said about the imaginary friend. And so they had to get the Pope out, and the Pope was like, this woman, she's nothing to do with my church. She set all of this up herself. Yeah, nothing to do with universal law. I was excommunicated, yeah.
Upset?
Oh, it's like my biggest medal. It's like, yeah, other than my children, of course. First children, second excommunicated. No. Thank you for coming. Nice to see you.
Does anybody else want one?
Yes, please.
Did you want a leaflet? Tell that guy, give him a leaflet. Quick, grab him.
We might get.
Yeah, have you got one?
I've got one.
All right. Bye-bye. Yes, sir.
My granddaughter about this, by the way, before I say it on the set. But I have been thinking about it because she's doing what I can.
She's going what?
Might just
get a doula. All right, okay. You can get a doula who's a home midwife to come to the house. But you can, that's all you need, is there not to be that midwifery period between the child being born and the hospital. So have a home birth, get a doula, don't register the child. They will still come and try and imply, because if she's been to the doctor and told the doctor I need a scan, bye-bye.
Just very,
Yeah, and so she's already declared that she's pregnant, so there's already a bond made for that baby. It's already a bond made.
should we wrap her up?
Yeah.
Looks like a lot.
If she started for 6
If she's not,
I think we're going to call it there, guys.
okay.
Please,
Good night.